the leading European brand which is now in the Gambia. Are you looking for glasses? Then you have come to the right place. As a first step, we will perform an eye exam to ensure we prescribe the correct lenses for you. After that, you can select a frame of your choice. We have a variety of brands in stock, and you will definitely find yours. You can have the full package of frame plus lenses starting from $990 up to more for the most fashionable options. Once you find a frame you like, your lenses will immediately be edged by our lab technician. Within 30 minutes, you will be able to leave with your prescription glasses and a huge smile on your face. How amazing is that? Visit us at the Tropic Shopping Center near Senegambia from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. every day of the week, or call us on 503-4411 or 7767-123.
And welcome to This Morning on QTV. We're happy to be back again. I'm Mansmane Sonyasi, and I'm here this morning with my very good friend, uncle and boss, Mr. Mboch. And our condolence to Lolly. I understand she's bereaved. And it's a Wednesday morning. Usually, Mr. Mboch, I think you didn't have a good weekend, but I believe at least it's all worn out. Now, how are you doing today?
Oh, yeah.
You don't want us talking about the weekend, do you?
No. Let's look forward to the next one. The past is past. Let's look forward.
All right. Well, how are you doing?
I'm all right. I
Great.
realized that today it's sort of like a boy's own this morning. So we can be as laddish as we want, isn't it?
Yeah, it takes me back to the St. Augustine days, you know.
That sort of thing.
So recta sapere.
Recta sapere, absolutely. I savor what is right.
Yes.
That's what it means. Fantastic.
All right, so good morning, guys, once again. We're happy to be back on your favorite morning show. This morning, brought to you exclusively on and by QTV Gambia. So we go through our running order this morning. We, of course, as usual, the African proverb, and then we have a look at, a review of the events in the past 24 hours. Not just necessarily a newspaper review. Social issues. We'll still be dealing with the biggest story of the year so far, the cough syrup saga. The police have released a press release as to how far they've gone in their investigations. We'll be hopefully engaging the police PR. I've been saying this from Monday. So hopefully today we will be able to have her on the phone. And then we have a look at freedom of speech, what our law says. We'll be engaging lawyer Fatou Jao later. And then Buba Fati will be here with his usual exciting click segment. We go straight into the first itinerary on our agenda this morning, Mr. Mboch, the African proverb, as usual. Do I allow you to go first?
No, let's go for it.
All right.
If you do not buy your wife enough cloth, her buttocks will be publicly seen. Extraordinary proverb there.
Indeed. For this one, I think
I'm going to let you begin.
Okay, so it could, be interpreted differently. However, even the literal interpretation alone, I think, says a lot. You've got to take care of your partner, your wife, But also, I think it could be interpreted as if you're not prepared, if you don't prepare yourself, you could be in for very, very unpleasant surprises. So it means you have to do what is right. Otherwise, the results would be very displeasing.
Yes, and perhaps the idea of the public shame.
Yes,
public
shame as well.
Just look at this proverb. The metaphor, as it were, the wife and the buttocks showing in public. Earlier on, we said this is a boy's own thing, and boys, we don't like that.
We don't like that, of course. We don't like that.
We don't like that. So this is it. take care of your business, otherwise the consequences.
Yeah.
I think that's essentially that. You wouldn't really like the consequences. The public
I don't know, the people that
thing.
come up with these proverbs, I mean, they're very interesting sometimes.
That's it, and it's quite interesting when you say the people who come up with these proverbs.
Yeah.
Will you ever know?
No, yeah.
You know what I mean? They're sort of like stuck.
Sometimes you come across very interesting ones, especially online, and then they would quote African proverbs. So you don't know who actually came up with these proverbs. But like I said, they're very interesting. But also, sometimes you come across very inspiring ones.
Yes, and inspiring, instructive.
Yeah.
There's always a lesson that they want to teach in the form of parables and metaphors and that sort of thing. But this is it. This is the nature of proverbs. Apparently, one time, Chinua Achebe came across one saying, as it were. He didn't know who said it. It's just African. So he called another professor who was an expert in this. But the guy said, I didn't know. So it appears as if with us, it's not about the name, the individual who said it. It becomes stock knowledge.
Yeah.
So in Wolof, we always say Wolof Njainili, Wolof Njainili. But who is Wolof Njai?
Who is Wolof Njai?
It's a mythical name. So all of these sayings that individuals, because all sayings, all ideas come from individual minds, but they give it to the culture. It's part of stock knowledge. It's not about the individual, it's about the culture.
Sure.
Extraordinary.
Yeah, the good thing is, I mean, most of these proverbs, you can relate with them. And sometimes when you come across some of these proverbs, you know, they remind you of past events, you know, in your life. And like I said, some could be very inspiring as well. So it's a good thing.
For me, it's a bit like history as well. It's sort of like a toolbox.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'm in a sort of very sticky situation, and then a proverb comes to you. Then it helps you to navigate yourself around situations. So this is what you do. Either proverbs or lessons in history, but they help you to sort of interpret, as it were, situations you're in. They help you to understand. They help in the conceptualization of situations and events and all the rest of it. So to me, it's a toolbox.
Yeah.
It's our tools that I use, actually.
Indeed, I like that one. It's a toolbox. So, I mean, viewers, we will be taking a short commercial break, and after which we'll go into the program proper. But just to remind you that this program is, you know, proudly supported by Opticalia. Do visit them along the Senegambia Strip. We'll be back after this commercial break.
Espas Motors is the largest and most modern auto service in the Gambia. Espas Motors is the only authorized dealer in Chevy.
All right, welcome back. I mean, be reminded you're watching This Morning on QTV, and it's myself and Mr. Mboj. I mean, on the desk this morning, bringing you this very exciting program that you always look forward to every morning. So, Mr. Mboj, we go straight into social issues. What else can we talk about if not the biggest story of the year? It's still making headlines. It's a developing story. I mean, like we said day before yesterday. And yeah, there are new developments in India and even back home in the Gambia.
As we expect that there should. This is really very, very, very serious. I'm not sure the last time we had something like this here.
Yeah.
You know, the number of deaths resulting from having these medicines, as it were, in the market.
Yeah.
So we should be talking about this for a long time. You keep hearing about the prosecutions and the compensation, absolutely granted. But for me, the wider issue of strengthening controls.
Yes.
What is it we are going to learn when we go back? I've been emphasizing
our regulatory bodies.
Absolutely. And everything. When we go back to retrace our steps, because you imagine that you've got all these filters, as it were. So where were these points of failure? We heard from the head of the MCA. Who said that these products were imported into this country legally. But not legally registered. Which is a very highly curious. It's a curious
interesting, really.
statement.
And I really struggled to understand what she meant by that. if they were imported into the country legally, how come they were not legally registered?
So to my mind, even before coming in, isn't it, you must pass a certain quality check before you come in.
Yeah.
So I do not understand that you've got this medicine. When we read, when you go back to India, following the newspapers there, they said that Made in Pharmaceuticals had not done their quality testing. There was just so much wrong. And from 2014, everybody knew about this company, really. People in this field, in this area, really would have done their homework. Everybody knows that. But the idea of these things coming in here legally, I really can't get my head around that. So that is why all these investigations, they need to be done quickly, really. We don't have that much time. We need to know.
They need to expedite this.
We need to expedite these things.
Yeah.
Then we see where the gaps are. Then maybe you can do something.
I like how the police is also handling this. I mean, they're keeping us updated as they progress in their investigations. Last night they issued a statement revealing, you know, how far they've gone in their investigations. And we understand the same thing is being done in India, like I said earlier. But before we talk about what's happening back home as to this entire saga, I would like us to look at this article on Al Jazeera that was published this morning. So India is still on its investigations, but so far what the investigations has revealed, according to Indian authorities, is that this company was found to have breached 12 times the, good practices, whatever. It's like they have been found to have done the wrong things in the process of manufacturing these medicines for 12 times.
And then you wonder why they are still in operation.
Yeah.
That tells you something else about how India is being run. That tells you something else. Yes? So this is it. So with us, never mind, India, they have a duty of care. If I'm going to sell you a product, of course I have a duty of care to you. I should have done, you know, they should have done all sorts of checks and quality controls and all the rest of it. They hadn't done. But again, in law, they tell you, caveat emptor, buyer beware. Yeah. So we should have also had our own quality checks.
Unfortunately, we don't.
I blame them for what I need to blame them for, but I must also blame ourselves as well. We should have had our quality checks and that sort of thing. So absolutely, because with them, so much rights on this, their reputation, they are developing, you know, perhaps today when you talk about after US, EU, and these countries, China, India is not far behind.
Yes.
Really. And
in fact, I understand they produce a third of the world's medicine.
Absolutely. And when it comes to IT as well, they're doing brilliantly. They want to build their international reputation. So they wouldn't want this company to tarnish their reputation. Modi came out and said, we are going to have an investigation into this. But again, as you've already said, they've been found wanting 12 times in the past. They are still in operation, doing these things, and look at it, 69 people have died in this country.
Now
Who knows in other countries what's happening?
You know, taking our share of the blame as well as a country. So here's a company. I'm interested. What I'm interested in knowing is whether the pharmacy, their local partners who went into business with them and imported these medicines into the country, did not do any background checks. All right, whether they did not do any background checks before they went into business with them. Because here's a company who has been found wanting, is a repeated offender in India, twice. They were taken to court in 2014 and then in 2018, as recent as 2018. They were taken to court again, all right, on similar charges. Yet you go into business with them, bring these medicines into the country. We saw their statement, the statement that they issued, that even though we cannot make any further comments on this, but then, in fact, I think what they did was to kind of allay fears in India, to say, you know what, we're only exporting this. We're not selling this thing in our local markets, because they know how much that could cost them. Already, they've been found wanting twice before and taken to court. Now, as recent as yesterday, based on the article on Al Jazeera, Indian authorities are saying our investigations so far have revealed that these people are not doing the right thing. And in the process of manufacturing these medicines that were, exported to Gambia, they have not been observing good practices. 12 incidents of that they've observed.
Absolutely.
Scary.
And here the pharmaceutical company, we've seen the letter that was written by the MCA, written to them to asking them to withdraw these products, called Atlantic Pharmaceuticals Company Limited, went online to look for this from Atlantic Pharmaceuticals, Gambia. Apparently, there is an Atlantic Pharmaceuticals in Thailand.
Yeah.
I was looking for the local contact. What is the relationship between these two? All these pharmaceutical companies, the ownership, who owns them, as it were. I think this sort of thing matters. The investigations will bring more out of that. Then you go to the second point, which really I find to be quite gut-wrenching, as it were. It was only in Gambia that they sent this product.
Yeah.
To my mind, that's quite curious. Why is that?
I think it's obvious. You know why? Because they've been found wanting twice and taken to court. So they wouldn't want to admit that these, medicines, that they're selling them in the local markets in India, because then it would mean, okay, you've been found wanting twice before, and you're still doing the same thing. It's a death sentence for them anyway. But admitting that.
But the point is, it seems as if they couldn't send it anywhere else but here.
But here.
Why is that? How are we so easy, so open? We keep saying the porous borders. Ade doesn't like porous borders, but this is it. Are we just so porous that anybody can see a business opportunity? To my mind, it just sounds so sinister that it's only here they send it to. But we know that in India, even China, they have certain products just for export.
Yeah.
Maybe the standards of care, the quality control may not be as high as, what their home market would demand. So cheap markets. In Africa, let's be honest, this thing is quite common. In fact, when they went to retrieve, as it were, these syrups, they found so many other products, health products that had expired.
Yeah. And talking about that, my uncle asked me this question last night, and it stuck with me since then. He said, do we know if there are other medicines manufactured by the same company that are on sale in the country? We're talking about these ones now, but do we know?
Absolutely. So this is the key. So once you have, we talk about this all the time, don't we? The institutional weaknesses.
Yeah.
The lack of resources. So you really cannot do your job effectively.
Yes.
Efficiently. You really cannot.
And with the Indian authorities as well. I think it's about time that they take this decision once and for all and just, because I cannot understand how a company that has been found wanting twice and taken to court is still allowed to operate.
Absolutely. But I'm not going to make too much judgment on Indian government and all the rest of it, how they do their politics. That was why earlier I said to you, when I look at the world, it's not driven by morality, it's about politics, profit, and that sort of thing. So I used that legal term, caveat emptor, buyer beware. I must have my systems in place. Nobody else owes me anything. You know what I mean? That duty of care is just notional. In reality, I could do something else. So let's be honest, we should really be stringent and robust in our defense.
Yeah. So we were talking about the National Assembly that have been quiet all along, and we expect them really to speak up, especially, looking at how serious this is. We understand they've invited the health minister and the MCA to the Assembly, which is good. This is what we want to see.
Absolutely, and whatever they get from that, hope will lead us to further action.
Yes.
For me, this is the whole thing, lead to further action. For us, for instance, when I discussed this with Ate, our criticism of the National Assembly was, on the day that the story broke, the whole world was talking about it.
Yeah.
They were in session until midnight. Nobody made a statement, but we know
There was
that
no
within
mention of
their
it.
systems, somebody within their protocols, how they do things, somebody could have made a statement, very serious. Nobody did. That's all we said, but of course.
All right. So thank you, Mr. Mboj. We'll still, of course, I mean, we've been saying this since Monday. This is the biggest story of the year, and it's not going to go away anytime soon, as the police and authorities also continue with the investigations. But we're happy to have lawyer Fatou Jao with us, my daughter. Good morning.
Good morning, my Jola boy.
You were supposed to be here yesterday.
Yes.
She ran away, Mr. Mboj.
Oh, I don't think she ran away.
She did.
She just couldn't.
Thank you.
There were other pressures.
I know he wouldn't have food for me, so I decided to stay.
See?
Oh, she loves her food.
Well, we're happy to have you
Thank
this
you
morning.
so much. I'm grateful.
How have you been?
I'm fine, thank you.
Great,
Yes.
great. So, I mean, of course, you're here to discuss something different, but also equally important. However, as a Gambian, I would also like to sound your opinion. How did you receive news of this? I mean, it's unfortunate news anyway. The cough syrup saga.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I believe this is like sad for every Gambian.
Yeah.
Because losing such an amount of people, even if it is one life that is lost, and it calls for mourning, and it goes beyond one life, because you wouldn't know what these babies might be when they grow up.
Yeah.
They might be presidents, they might be lawyers, they might be people that might even change the country.
True.
Into where we want to see it. So it's unfortunate, but at the end of the day, I believe as Gambians, we must take responsibility of whatever happens.
Yeah.
Yes, it's already a loss, but now what should we do to make sure it doesn't happen again? And then when these things happen, who bears the responsibility? And let's hold those people accountable. Because for Gambia, the unfortunate thing is we would be hype about something, the time it occurs, everybody would talk, and then you can see how people are sorry, how people are sad and grieving about the issue. But once it has a cooling period, everybody goes on with their normal business. And to me, that means we are not ready for accountability.
Yeah.
Because if issues arise within the heat of passion, we are all talking about it, and everybody is talking everything. And you think these people are very serious, they wouldn't let this issue die out. But in the next couple of weeks or days, everything. So meaning people would continue to do these things. They would just say, look, whenever it happens, they talk, and that's the end of
Well,
it.
this one shouldn't be like that.
Yes,
We're
should
talking about
move from
69
it.
lives. And who knows, it could even be more than that.
Exactly, who knows? And also we don't even know whether we have people that are already infected with these things and they are still not medically given attention. They might even add up. Nobody knows.
I am aware of one
You
who is
understand?
still in hospital.
So that is all some mortalities that might be possible. And another thing is we need to ask ourselves, how do these things come into the country? Because you could see there was this Twitter post from an Indian lady saying, we don't need to panic because it's only imported in Gambia.
Yeah.
So that is very unfortunate. So meaning if it is Gambia, it's normal because it's nowhere else in the world.
Yeah.
So we should take this seriously, because in as much as we are a poor country, but I believe we should be able to have mechanisms in place to make sure whatever is coming into the country is tested and approved. But if that is not happening, then it's unfortunate. These things will reoccur unless and until we have those measures in place to make sure that these things don't happen again. Yes.
So and this I mean local pharmacy that they have been doing business with, the one that imported the medicines into the country. We tried reaching out to them, but every time you dial the numbers, foreign names come up, names that don't in any way sound Gambian, in fact, interestingly. And they're not picking, but they're not also responding to our messages and emails. Unfortunately, we've been trying for the whole of yesterday.
I know.
Unfortunately.
And we went, I told you, I went online to find out, to see this Atlantic Pharmaceuticals Company Limited. But the one I saw, the parent one, apparently in Thailand. Then I saw Atlantic Pharmaceuticals, Gambia. Then the contact person, a foreign name. So that's why I said, maybe let's look into these pharmaceutical companies. Who owns them? You know?
And were they even registered at the Ministry of Justice, or it's just some fake or shadow company that is trying to say they are operating in Gambia because they actually know maybe this drug is not suitable for, but say they want to smuggle it inside. So these are all things that I think we need a lot of work to be done.
Because I think that's a salient point you touched on there. You remember what you said earlier about, I mean, when you quoted the MCA boss, what she said?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, she's talking about legally in here,
yes,
but not legally registered.
She said,
which is quite curious.
She said the medicines, the MCA boss said the medicines were legally imported into the country, but not legally registered.
But again,
I don't understand that.
I don't also understand what you mean when a medication is legally imported in a country by somebody that probably might not get the legal requirements or the license to import them. So you cannot say they are legally imported.
Exactly.
How did they get here? Did they follow all the rules? Did they? Because what I understand from the MCA Act is like you have a place where you register all these drugs that you import. So was this drug registered with them?
It's like an illegal process, legalizing.
Yes, they hide behind the law to do illegal things. So that is illegal in itself.
And how would you get the brazenness, the audacity, not registered,
and you
but
still
you're distributing it?
Yeah,
exactly.
See, that's another level as well. Unregistered, but you're distributing it, obviously.
And also from the preliminary investigation report of the police, I saw a portion that really I have more interest in, because I saw a portion saying that it is established that they had permission to import these drugs. So permission from who, from where, and which permission? So these are things that I think the police need to further investigate, but just not to release a release or an investigation report to say that we understand or it is established that they have permission. The public need to know from who and what kind of permission, whether it's legal or not. Because if they have permission from who? We only have one authority that authorizes people to register and then distribute these drugs.
And that's the MCA.
So let them not leave people presuming or assuming.
And the MCA is saying they imported these things legally, but it wasn't legally registered. I don't understand that bit as well.
I am
Something
confused.
isn't clear there, really.
So if you cannot trace this company, is it registered? And most of these pharmacies, they operate with license. We have people that have license and they will rent it out to these people. Some people are not even medically trained. You just go and rent a license. You operate a pharmacy.
In fact, the MCA boss is saying we shouldn't be saying renting. She's saying they are partners.
I would say renting, and
I would say it on
partners. The TV.
But if
you know why?
If we're partners, then you're equally culpable.
They might say partners to formalize because maybe that's what the act is saying.
Yes.
But in reality, they are not partners.
Yes,
because we know how partnership works. And in this sense, they will rent out to people that don't know anything about pharmacy jobs. And they're mandated by the act to supervise those people at least some hours every day. You're supposed to be there. They know that. So most of these people, they will never go and even know what these people that are using their license are doing with the license.
I don't think some can even tell you where these pharmacies are
located. That is the problem.
They cannot even tell you where they're located.
So the problem is we have people that don't really care about some of these implications of their own actions, but they care about the material that they get from this. And you know, you have a lot of people even complaining. A lot of Gambians are complaining. I have this interactions with a lot of people that are frustrated. They are Gambians, they're doing genuine pharmacy business, but now most of these license holders prefer to give it to foreigners than even Gambians, and they would charge you a rate that you wouldn't be able to pay.
Wow.
So these are all things that are happening. So let us not shy away from responsibility.
That is one sector they really need to look at.
Yes.
And talking about the police statement, they're saying 8,538 bottles of this contaminated syrup still unaccounted
for.
Scary.
Absolutely. I mean, the last time we spoke, we said even though there's a lot of publicity being generated here, but I can just imagine in some corner of this country where a mother is still giving the kids this.
They wouldn't know.
They wouldn't know.
Yes.
So we might have a few deaths before it completely stops.
Exactly.
Where there will be that lag, as it were, that time lag.
But I
So
think
that's my
also what
suspicion.
the other people like the Red Cross, because just a few days I was at my village. I went to Sinte actually, so they found me there. So during this process, they would enter to like a door-to-door campaign sort of. So they would ask about these drugs and explain. So they will ask you to bring all these drugs or syrups that you have. So most of the time they recover those things from. So I think that would even help.
Okay.
Because those with remotest villages that they don't usually look at TV, they don't have WhatsApp that would circulate these things, and most of these things are not even in local languages. What do you tell them? So you can do those things and at least help
Especially those
save people.
fullers in Sintet, huh?
And the Jolas in that part of Fonyi.
So I understand we have the police Piero on the line. Good morning, Madam Piero.
Hi, good morning.
You ran away. Since Monday, we've been trying to get a hold of you. I know you're busy. What are you doing?
It's been a busy day.
Okay, but I hope
Yeah.
you're fine.
Yeah, I'm good, thanks.
All right, so the police issued a statement last evening. Yes, tell us about it.
Yeah, we issued a preliminary police investigation report into the death of the 66 children, or at least 66 children that are suspected to have died as a result of the AKI, sorry. So we were able to also make recoveries of some of these contaminated drugs, and yeah, we're investigating.
I mean, I understand, of course, you said you're investigating. I understand some persons of interest have been called for questioning. Do we know who these people are or the institutions that they work for?
Because it is a procedure and we're investigating, certain information wouldn't be appropriate to be given to the public now, because as we all know, certain things said to the public can jeopardize the process of the investigation. So what we can give at the moment is that we have recovered some of these suspected contaminated drugs, and we're still on the search to ensure we recover the rest of the about 8,535 bottles that still remain unaccounted for.
Mr. Bush?
Yes, I have a question,
Yes.
Madam. What is the remit, the scope of the investigations to establish what exactly?
To establish how these drugs came and the people responsible for ordering these drugs into the country, and the deaths involved, the number of deaths involved, to establish the accurate number of deaths involved, as well as hold those people responsible accountable.
Is it only the police, or you've got doctors and others, as it were, involved, who are part
We
of
have
this
the
panel
relevant
of
stakeholders
investigation?
joining hands with the police to ensure the investigation process is professionally carried out, because this is a health issue, so the police can't do it alone. The MCA is involved and other stakeholders that are responsible.
Have you given yourself a timeline? When should we expect findings from this investigation?
That I cannot ascertain, because investigation is sometimes a bit critical, but we're doing our utmost to ensure it is done as soon as possible to ensure justice is granted to these at least 66 children that died.
Okay. Fatu, do you have any questions for Piero?
No, at this
All
stage.
right. So yes, Piero,
Yeah.
so far, from your press release, I mean,
Yeah.
like you said earlier, we understand over 8,000 bottles still unaccounted for.
Yeah.
I mean, if you had any message for members of the public as well, of course you would need public support. As far as this investigation is concerned, what would it be?
Yeah, I think there is high publicity to sensitize the public, the the drugs that are suspected to be contaminated. So we advise parents to surrender these drugs to the relevant authorities or to the police if they like, and also to keep an eye and pay attention to the signs and symptoms that are associated to this AKI. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much.
Can I just have one more? I'm curious to know this, Piero. The role of the police in general enforcement of these drug laws, day to day. Can you talk to us a bit about that? The role of the police in enforcing, as it were, drug laws, as it generally.
Our mandate in this issue or general issues is to ensure the protection of lives and properties. So because these contaminated drugs have killed at least 66 people, we're ensuring that no further deaths occur as a result of these contaminated substances, and also ensure procedural mechanisms are put in place to see that when these drugs come into the country, they are not here to kill our people. So we are not the drug law enforcement agency, but we are interested in ensuring that we protect the lives and properties of our citizens, and this is no exceptional case.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate your time. Thank you so much. So
thank you.
I think still back to what we were saying earlier. You remember when she mentioned that in their release they did indicate that it has been established, that the company has permission to import these things. But I think she just told us the reason why they didn't go further to. So I couldn't even ask any further questions.
Sure.
But what do you make of what she said?
Yes. Actually, investigations, these are just like me as a lawyer sitting here and you're asking about substance of an ongoing case. I wouldn't say anything. I would just say, I can't say. Yeah. So I understand her point, and this is exactly how they work. You know, if you're getting information to possibly prosecute somebody or to land them into what they call trouble, or with the, some of these things, the outcome, you would know that we have to be careful.
Yeah, it's like when I was reading the press release last evening. As I was reading, I was like, but they're not telling us anything new.
Exactly.
And then I went to the last line, and it says investigations are still ongoing.
So it means maybe this is important for the public to at least know that the police are doing something and these are maybe their major areas of concentration. But especially the point that I raised, I'm sure the conclusive investigative report would capture how these things were imported, who granted that permission, and so on. But at this stage, you understand it cannot be available to the public.
Absolutely. For me, the key thing is the scope
of the
what is the investigations? Because I don't simply want to prosecute where I need to prosecute. We'll certainly do that. I hope so. Some people need to be prosecuted. Yes, they're denying that. We do not know yet who, and that sort of thing. But again, what can I learn to go back to the controls, to strengthen my controls? What can I learn? We know about the lack of resources. We don't even have a laboratory, but we are told that the World Bank will help. Now we'll get a laboratory. But other elements as well in our system of the procedures and processes. What can I learn to make it more difficult for others to circumvent, as it were, some of these processes? Because it's really a scandal that this product managed to get into this country legally. It's really a scandal, extraordinary if we go by what the MCA, head of the MCA said.
Yeah, I couldn't believe when I heard her say that, really. I was just shaking my head. I said, how do you mean? But anyway, we hope that by the time the police are done with their investigations, we will have a clear picture of what actually happened.
So should we be surprised?
We hope so.
Every area you touch, every institution you touch, we all know that when it comes organizationally, they're way below par. Yeah. We've been listening to the select committees in the National Assembly. We've been looking at the national audit reports. Yeah. They're giving us the gaps in the management of public institutions. So This is not a surprise at all. It's an awful, awful situation, but it's not a surprise at all.
Yeah, sometimes I really don't buy the idea of saying we lack the resources. And then, come on, if you lack the resources, sometimes it doesn't make sense then to set up a body that you cannot, you know, give resources to carry out such things. Because if there cannot be a laboratory for the MCA to test substances that are into this content, then we stop them from coming. Yeah. Because you're risking it. Yeah. It's like that statement itself is I don't know how to put it, but it can lead you, it can land you into trouble. Yeah. Because you cannot just take people's lives and you set up an agency. At the end of the day, they're not giving that resource to do their functions. So what is the essence of that agency? And that is critical.
Yeah. And for me, maybe just one more thing. Granted, there is no laboratory. Then what? Does it mean that I can just let in anything? And whoever is bringing it in, I just take your word for it? No. We don't have a laboratory, but there's a plan B. Yeah. It is absolutely imperative that we test all of these things before we accept them. So am I going to say that they must be WHO certified, for instance?
That is the option that I wanted to even
or
talk about.
Others, can I have an MOU with perhaps Senegal or Cape Verde? Countries that have the capacity to do so. Just because I do not have a laboratory doesn't mean that I cannot come up with other ideas. Perhaps it will be more laborious, more cumbersome, granted, and, you know, but I must test.
Listening to you, I mean, I'm just thinking now, all the medicines that have been coming into the country all these years, how, on what basis, what do we have in place, you know, to ascertain that this is safe for people to... I don't know anyway, but
and you know, it's just something that has already been destroyed, and if we don't do anything, it would continue. I went to a pharmacy. I got some omeprazole because I got this gastric that sometimes I just need that drug, even if it is once, so I can get the other one that I usually get. So I bought it from a pharmacy, and I just read the sachet. It was expired.
Wow.
I told the guy that you are selling expired drugs. So I have to actually address the person to remove everything from the counter. You know, some of these things, now can you tell me what resources do you need to just go and confirm some of these medications that are in pharmacies? They don't inspect.
Anyways, I'm afraid I will leave it at that for today. You know, Fatu actually is here for a different purpose, but because this is, I mean, something that all of us are interested in. It's a national issue, and I'm sure, I mean, like everyone else, you know, she's equally affected by this. So yes, we move on now to the very reason why she's here, Mr. Butch, freedom of speech. The debate has been going on and on, especially on social media, and we want to know, you know, what, you know, our law says. What are the limitations, you know? Yes. So Fatu, let's look into this very interesting and important topic for that matter. Freedom of speech.
Very well. I just want to look at the exact section. Yeah. And that is like section 25 of the Constitution. You know, when we talk about these freedoms, they're fundamental rights. So it's only the Constitution that can actually give you the right or entitlement. Yeah. So in this regard, our discussion would be centered on what the Constitution says about freedom of speech. So it's section 25, subsection 1. Which actually says every person shall have the right to freedom of speech, expression, which shall include the freedom of press and other media. So it's a general provision that says you have a freedom of speech. But if you go elsewhere in the same provision, that is subsection 4, so it is telling you these fundamental freedoms, that is the freedom of speech, you have conscience and association, it's limited, it's not absolute. So it means even if, let's say, they're subjected to the laws of the Gambia. Something like, let's say, if we have the Public Order Act, we have some of these laws, because there is something saying that they are restricted on the exercise of rights and freedoms thereby conferred, so which are necessary in a democratic society or are required for the interest of the sovereignty and integrity of the Gambia, the national security, public order, decency, morality, or in relation to contempt of court. So you can exercise this freedom so long as they are not against democratic principles, public order, security, and then the integrity or the welfare of the people or the sovereignty.
And it comes with morality as well.
And morality.
Okay.
So now, if we are talking about freedom of speech, you have to now censor yourself as to what can you say, and it wouldn't amount to an offense of the law. Because even your right to life, which is more important, has limitations. When it's caught on, the law says you have to, die because a death penalty is imposed on you, it's restricted. There is nothing you can do. So this freedom of speech, which is a civic and political right, as a Gambian, if I am to utter anything, I can just insult SO and say I have a right to say whatever I want because I constitutionally am guaranteed freedom of speech.
Yeah, I think it's important you highlight this because sometimes you have people, they would make some, very nasty comments towards an individual. And then you try to talk to them and they'll tell you, you know what, this is my fundamental right. Some would say, in fact, this is my God-given right. So it's important that you're highlighting this, that there are limitations and moral issues attached to it as well.
So there is one thing that I want people to also understand. These laws are not just made in vacuum. So laws are made to regulate society for a peaceful and orderly coexistence. So if we have laws, we should look at what are the purpose of these laws. Because you just don't put these laws there to just write something because you want a book of laws. You want to regulate society. Yeah. So if we are having, let's say, freedom of speech, it's a law. What is the aim of that? At the end of the day, is for you to probably express your grievances, to give your opinions and beliefs or your part or perspective when it comes to the way the country is governed or some of the things that you really think they matter. Yeah. But at the end of the day, because of it's a regulation, you are expected to behave in a certain way. Because these laws are laws from either divine law or from culture or social norms. So you do the jurisprudence of laws, they will tell you most of these fundamental rights are from divine law. So they are from either religious scripts or our societal norms, that is morality. Yeah. So you cannot exercise the law in outside these concepts. So that is why whatever you utter, the moment it touches on outside morality or the accepted values of the society or the accepted values of our religion, then it goes somehow illegal, because most of the time these laws are centered around what people believe.
Mr. Much.
Yes, I remember my constitutional law lecturer at school saying that in Britain, freedoms are residual. Residual meaning they've got their 10 commandments. Thou shalt not do A, thou shalt not do B, thou shalt not do all of that. When you're done with that, whatever remains, that's your right.
Yes. Yes.
Then you can do.
That's not interesting.
That's exactly what it is. Whatever remains, you can do.
That.
So this is the paradox of freedom. That's why it's different from licentiousness. It is not a license. The people who tell you, oh, it's my right, I'm like, I'm not sure about that. Maybe you want to take it as a license.
Yes.
Because the whole notion of rights can only work when I restrain myself, paradoxically.
Yes.
I think it's more about being conscious of your limitations first.
Yes. You have a right, you have a responsibility. Because like we would say legally, where your right stops, that's where somebody's right starts. Yeah. So you cannot exercise your right to violate another person's right. Whenever you do that, that is illegal, because you've exceeded the limit of where you exercise your right. So if you look at the Constitution, there are certain points that it highlighted that these rights are limited. That is the freedom of speech because of public order, morality. So in the case of the Gambia, you look at some of the things that we say. Are they in line with our public morals? Are they capable of inciting violence? Are they capable of destroying or affecting the peace that we have in the country? So these are some of the things. Or are they capable of having impact on our national security? Are they capable of having, let's say, impact on the sovereignty of the Gambia? So these are some of the things that we should also think about whenever we want to utter something in the regard of we have a right to say anything. Yeah. So these are things that we really need to note, because you cannot just say anything and you feel is your right to say it. It's crazy.
That's it.
Yes.
And people tend to forget the twin partner. Rights, this notion of rights, they've got a twin partner called responsibility.
Yeah.
If it is my right to get A, B, and C, it is somebody else's responsibility to give me that. So rights will always go with responsibilities. I've had cause to talk to one head of a CSO. I said to him, you know what I've noticed? You tend to spend a lot more time on our rights. Yeah. Our rights this, our rights that, our rights that. But I said, maybe spend some time on our responsibilities.
Yeah, I remember the former president, Jammeh, every time he's criticized for, all this abuse of rights and violations, he would always bring up this argument. He's always talking about responsibility. Yeah. Even though, we know what was happening. But yeah, that's an interesting bit as well.
Absolutely. We need to go back to that. Otherwise, the structure of rights will not work.
Yeah.
Just as you were saying.
So your point would take me to, there is this portion of the draft constitution that actually had responsibility of citizens. So, this current constitution, we wouldn't have it. But the draft constitution was better in a sense that it has responsibility of each citizen. So some of these responsibilities, when you read them, there is no way you read and understand or digest them, then you would come and do certain things that are against your responsibility. So these are some of the things that we should have. You are right. So most of the time, civil society, we are always talking about rights, but how about the responsibilities of people to their country and to the people that they live with? Absolutely. It's very important.
I think that's a shortcoming. And something perhaps we can broaden it a bit. Our relationship to law. Philosophers write about this all the time. I'm likelier to be motivated by our customs, our traditions than law. That is why you see all of these institutions, we don't follow procedure at all. Yeah. It's just we've got these relationships, the social norms that really interfere with institutional life. It's very curious, yes. And we've got certain attitudes, certain outlooks that would make institutional life dysfunctional. It's extraordinary. So how do we navigate between how we are at home, which is fine at home, with my neighbor? We do each other favors, we give gifts, we help. But when I take that institutionally, but how do I not? This is me. That is so we're in a bind. The question is far more complex than we want to put out. We think it is. It's easy to blame president. There's blame this, blame that. But there's a deeper complexity that made this possible.
That actually takes it. When we talk about some of these things, exactly this is what is happening, because it's the same norms, this maslaha syndrome, that something will happen and you just want to say it's the will of God. I think sometimes we are just saying it's the will of God, but we don't even trust in God, because God gives us conscience. So if you know that this is wrong, you do it, and still you want to say it's the will of God that I should have done this, or this should have happened. So we of course you believe in God, but you have conscience, and you know what is wrong and right. So try to restrain yourself. And whatever happens, you could say that is the will of, because I have done everything that I could possibly do humanly, and it's not possible. Then you can have, but you didn't do anything. You just know what you are doing is wrong, and at the end of the day, people will help you say it's the will of God. So because of we don't have that culture of accountability and sincerity. So it's going to be very difficult, the same people are occupying those institutions, to hold people accountable to enforce that accountability. Because already, like you said, the norms and values that we have is already in us, that we don't want to learn. We don't want to differentiate or draw the line between the cultural norms at home or the societal norms and the institutional norms or the professional ethics standards. Because when you work, you look at regulations, ethics. If not anything, if you are in a profession, like myself, I don't expect to behave the way I behave in my house when I am professionally inclined.
And it's like with this, and it's like with you know, sometimes it starts from the top. You know, this masla syndrome you were talking about earlier. I mean, you have, for example, I mean, I share the same office with Mr. Mboj, and he's my boss. He will set up certain rules, but he'll be the first to flout those rules. And you know, like my literature teacher would usually tell us in high school. He would say, you know, we have a problem in Africa. I mean, mostly the custodians of the law, I mean, are mostly
violating the law. So subjects would not respect.
This is the contradiction at the heart of things. The other day I was saying to Ade, I said, I was just reflecting on this. I said, when you look at corruption indices, the most corrupt, I looked at religion, the indices. We are among the most religious. They say the continent, Africa, we are among the most religious in the world. Yet we are among the most corrupt. I cannot reconcile the two. I said, I'm confused. What is religion supposed to do?
Against corruption, you know.
Absolutely. What is it supposed to do? That in a jihad, that to clean your attitude, your outlook, to clean your habits. As it were, we don't go through that journey. As it were, everybody thinks that we are okay and all of that, but people who are serious about these things know that you have to battle with yourself really to do the right thing.
That's true.
We are constantly battling with ourselves. We know the demon within, but do people reflect on that? So I cannot reconcile these two radically different pictures. So religious, yet so corrupt. How? Why?
I don't think we are religious.
You know,
maybe we use religion as a cover.
It makes you wonder. I don't get it.
Really? If we were religious, we wouldn't even need most of these laws.
And religion is mostly the excuse, huh?
Yes. So it's a cover-up. I believe it's a cover-up.
You see how talking about free speech has taken us to theology.
Yes. Yeah. So these are some of the things. It's not a difficult area, but human beings are really difficult. Sometimes you're giving something, but you take it to another level. And you know, you have human beings that actually would only behave when they are punished or when they know there is a punishment. So that is why we have these deterrent things to deter people. But you have people also that can behave without even somebody telling them what you're doing is wrong.
That's wrong,
because, but the most difficult part is that we need to also use social media wisely, you know. Sometimes people would think that this freedom dosing or your rights are not limited on social media.
Yes.
Some of us think that the laws of the country are not applicable in on social media. So you can say, but at the end of the day, social media, if you look at that social, it's part of a society.
Part of society,
You're talking to the greater part of society, or at least a limited number of society. So some of these things would have impact on others, on the nation's reputation, on the country's order or peaceful coexistence, which is very important because, you know, peace is something that if we don't have, it's not, we wouldn't be here talking about some of these things that are happening.
Without peace,
we should be
society.
responsible citizens to utter anything that is going to have impact on our lives and on our country, and we do away with things that will really not matter at the end of the day.
All right, thank you, Fatu. We appreciate your time. We're happy that at least today you came. I'm not sure if you're fasting.
I'm not fasting, so maybe my breakfast would have to make me down.
She said she didn't come yesterday because she wasn't sure if I was going to give her breakfast.
So you owe her the breakfast this morning. Afterwards, you're going to get her breakfast.
Yes. Well, we appreciate your time. Thank you so very much for coming.
All right.
So, I mean, we'll take a short break and we'll be back.
So I can.
All right. I'm being told that we don't have the click segment this morning. Unfortunately, we are looking forward to it. So, on behalf of the entire production team, we thank you for watching and we look forward to another exciting edition tomorrow.
Medicalia is a high-quality clinic from Europe, which is now in the Gambia. Do you have an eye problem? Do you feel a hearing difficulty? Medicalia is here to ease the pain for you. The first and only hearing aid dispensing facility nationwide, where patients can be tested and treated to recover from their hearing loss. Fitted with latest generation equipment, our doctors can provide healthcare assistance for eyes, ears, nose, and throat. Common diseases like glaucoma or diabetic retinopathy can be diagnosed and followed up for fast and correct treatment. Make your appointment with the eye or ear, nose, and throat ENT specialist today to relieve any pain you might be feeling, as consultants are available daily. Contact us for more information. Visit us at Tropic Shopping Centre near Senegambia from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. every day of the week, or call us on 503-4411 or 7767123. Medicalia, premium care, personal touch.